Let's do a quick and easy out the door makeup look when you just want to feel maybe a little bit more put together. You really don't want to be trying too much. You just kind of want to get out the door, maybe have a little bit more, pizzazz. I always start with brows. I start with a brow gel. I let this completely dry, and then I go in with a brow pen. Then we eye prep. Well, we're going to skin prep, but I start with eyes. This is the NARS Light Reflecting Cream, and I really love this for an extra boost of hydration underneath the eye. It's sort of a cross between a balm and a gel. But it does give you that little bit of luminosity that looks so good under a more mature under eye. I have oily combo skin, so I like to keep my skin prep at a minimum, and really loving the Dieux Instant Angel Gel Cream. So it's a bit lighter than the Instant Angel, and I find it works so well for my oily combo skin, and I'm gonna probably really be loving this in the summer. Look at that glow. It's a perfect makeup canvas. If you have dry skin, I would go in with a serum and then a moisturizer. If you're more like oily combo, you can really stop at a hydrating SPF. This ultraviolet, it's an Australian formula. And one thing Australians know how to do is SPF with a UV index that's off the charts. But I love this formula because it's got a little bit of viscosity to it, so it wears really beautiful under makeup, and it gives your skin a little bit of glow without being Tin Man-y. No matter what else you're doing, make sure that you are not leaving your house without an SPF. I like to always have on an SPF of 50. If my makeup products have SPF in it, that's a bonus. I never rely on makeup products to get actual SPF coverage because the amount of that product that you would need to put on to get the coverage in the bottle is ridiculous and you would look crazy. This is what the skin looks like prepped. We've got SPF. We put a thick layer of eye cream underneath, sort of like a mask, and just let that all absorb. What you want with this step is just really hydrated, plump, juicy skin with a little bit of tack maybe if you're wearing makeup on top of it. The result is going to be hydrated, moisturized, and fine lines and wrinkles sort of plumped out a little bit. That's the goal. I love to underpaint. I think this is so beautiful, this technique on more mature skin, because you end up using less product. And if you're somebody who's like a beginner, or maybe you struggle with makeup placement and proportions, try underpainting. The final result is just this beautiful, seamless application that looks like it's coming from underneath the base products. And it just is such a gorgeous complexion. Now, I don't blend this out. I sort of tap over it just to move it around a little bit. I'm gonna do the same thing with the blush. I'm using this Huda in Black Cherry, which is a very pigmented blush shade. But since I'm underpainting, I'm not really too worried about it. Again, not really blending, just tapping over it. A little more on this side. Perfect. A little over the nose. Now I'm going to take the foundation. I'm using the Mary Phillips Lace Skin. I'm in shade... I don't know why I'm unscrewing that. I'm in shade 150N on the back of my hand, and I'm going to prime it into the brush. This is an IT Cosmetics brush, and I'll have all the products listed. And I start sort of at the bottom, and I work my way up until I'm like basically going around the pigment. This is a gorgeous foundation, especially if you have dry skin. I do not have dry skin, but it's so beautiful that I set it and it works beautifully. This is probably one of the most skin-like foundations that I've tried. And then as we have less on our brush, you just go over everything. But look how natural the finish is. I'm going to conceal using the Natasha Denona, and I always like to start down here with concealer because I don't want a bunch of concealer sitting underneath my eye, and this is a really good way to just sheer it out. I go under here just to make that a little bit more crisp above the nose, and then if you have 11s, go above them just to add some brightness to the center of the face. And then with a concealer brush, I'll just tap over it, and then bring it up underneath the eye and across. And with concealer, as with most makeup products, it's very easy to add more a little bit more challenging to take it away. So we always want to make sure that we're working with very light layers, especially under a mature under eye. And then just blend by just tapping over where we place the concealer. Now I like to go over everything with a stands out sponge. This is going to ensure that there's no excess product sitting around on the skin, but it's also going to like marry those complexion products into the skin. This sponge is really special in what it does. And just go all around. Now we're going to add some powder. I'm taking Cherry Blossom Cake from Huda, the pressed version, which I really love for under eyes. I start down here and I work my way up and across just to set. So we start down here, up and across. And then just take down a little bit of the shine in between the forehead, basically places where I don't want to be shiny. And then with the MAC Studio Fix, I'm going to clean up down here. This is more of a skin tone shade. And I'm going to set the center of the face because I don't necessarily want pink all over my face. And because they've removed the talc on this, it's really beautiful on skin that's seen a thing or two. I like to go ahead and take that right over my lids. And for eyeshadow, I'm just going to take the bronzer, the powder bronzer I'm going to use on the rest of my face, and a fluffy eyeshadow brush, and I'm just going to work this into the crease. This is the Fara Homidi bronzer in shade Roma. It's gorgeous. And this just gives you like a really cohesive look. I'm not about doing 42 color eyeshadow looks on the daily. I'm a bronzer in the crease and let's call it a day kind of girl. So I like to kind of get under the brow and carve that out and then drag it out. MAC Dazzle shadow, and just add that to the center of the lid and just tap. And then blend it, bringing it slightly up. This is Stash or Dash. It is such a gorgeous golden micro glitter. And the doe foot puts this on so evenly that you barely need to do any blending with your fingers. It's stunning. With Makeup Forever in Cool Ebony, these are the new Aqua Resist liners. They're waterproof, sweat-proof, transfer-proof. They will last all day. I love them for tight lining. We just want to kind of wiggle this pencil in between the lashes. Just getting a little bit out here, dragging it out into a little baby wing with my fingers. You can also just take a little smudger brush. They do give you some time, and once they set down, they're there for the day. Just adding a little out here again, dragging that out, and smudging it with a brush. And what this looks like is a little bit of a smudgy kind of shadow wing, and I find this to be a go-to for every day. Sorry to be jumping all around here, but I'm going to go in with that same smudger brush back into the bronzer and just put a little bit of it on the bottom lash line. So tell me in the comments, is there a particular thing that you struggle with? Do you consider yourself a beginner again? Maybe you're in your 40s or 50s or beyond, and maybe you used to like makeup, but you don't anymore because you feel like you're working on a different face. Anyone? I went ahead and put 3 coats of Tarantulash mascara, my favorite from Bakeup Beauty. Now I'm just adding some of this to the bottom lashes. I like a very bold, in-your-face lash. This has been my favorite mascara for probably over 2 years. I'm back into the bronzer with a bit of a fluffy brush, tapping it off and just setting the cream bronzer, going around the perimeter of the face. Same bronzer we used on the eyes. Now, you don't have to do all these steps, but if you want longevity to your makeup, think about setting your cream products with powder products. That's where you get long wear. Make sure you take bronzer down the neck, chest, and décolleté if it's exposed. I want a really neutral blush option, so I'm going in with Dreamland from Kosas. It's a perfect, like, nudie blush. It's not going to compete with anything else you've got going on. Go with any eye look. I like to get a little bit on the forehead just so that everything looks like it makes sense, like some continuity. For the lip combo, I'm using the double-ended lip liner from Charlotte Tilbury. If you're going to overline your lips, overline the cupids though, the top part of the lip, and the bottom part of the lip. One thing I like about this pencil is that it's got the deeper shade for contour, and then it's got the lighter shade that's going to allow you to kind of go over that and fill in the lip. Everything else stays inside the lip line. And that's how you get vertical height instead of looking like you're widening your mouth. We do not want that. And then just go over it to soften it with the lighter shade. And then you fill in the lip, and it's going to be a very long wearing lip combo. You can go over this with a lipstick or a gloss. I'm using these glosses from Iris and Romeo. They have SPF in them. The shades are beautiful, but it doesn't have the smell and taste of an SPF gloss. If you know, you know. I'm just gonna lock it all in with one size on till dawn. This will turn any makeup look into a waterproof, long-lasting dream. That's the final look. Very soft signature glam at 58. I hope you'll stick around and follow me. I'm going to try to get really consistent on YouTube. I'm shooting for once a week. Hit the follow button and let's chat in the comments. See you next week.